Welcome back, my salt-rubbed philosophers of the parking lot, my crumpled prophets of the broken bench. Hobo Yeti here, brushing the ash off my sleeves and staring directly into the moral funhouse mirror we call government. Today we're going to do something a little different, We're going to look at Trump's latest executive order on homelessness. But instead of shouting our answers into the wind, we're going to ask the questions the order doesn't. Because sometimes the silence around a law is more telling than the law itself. So let's break this order down section by section. Not to dissect it like a frog, no, we're asking it to explain itself, if it can. The first section, the purpose, opens with bold declarations that encampments are dangerous, that homeless people are threatening public safety, that cities have allowed this crisis to grow. It uses words like decay and chaos to paint a portrait of urban hellscapes. So, I guess my first question is, when did being visible become equivalent to being dangerous? Is it public safety or public comfort we're really trying to restore? Why is someone sleeping under a tarp treated like an act of aggression? If homelessness is framed as a failure of leadership, then whose leadership failed exactly? The mayors, Congresses, or, the economies? What does it mean when the government describes a group of citizens as disorder? And maybe the weirdest one, why does it sound like the unhoused are an invasive species? Something to be removed instead of, helped? Then we get to the policy section where the tone sharpens. It says the policy of the federal government is to restore law and order, dismantle encampments, and ensure access to treatment and shelter, but not necessarily through consent. So can I still say no to help I don't want? What does ensure access mean if I'm dragged into a van? Does offering help with a badge in one hand and handcuffs in the other count as voluntary? If I refuse a shelter bed, am I now resisting policy? Does restoring law and order mean enforcing old vagrancy laws that were ruled unconstitutional decades ago? What if the only thing separating me from jail is whether I call a sidewalk home instead of a protest site? And maybe, just maybe, is this policy about care or containment? Next up, we've got the section on federal coordination. This bit tells HUD, DOJ, HHS, and Veterans Affairs to coordinate efforts, meaning share data, form task forces, and streamline action across departments, which leads to some weird questions like, what kind of data are we sharing exactly? My medical records, shelter intake forms, the time I asked for a sandwich? Who gets to label me mentally ill? A clinician or a cop with a clipboard? Can being dirty, disoriented, or just quiet now be grounds for federal tracking? If I don't have a phone, am I still being watched? Are we coordinating services or just creating a faster pipeline from tent to facility? Who audits these task forces to make sure they aren't just sweeping people up in bulk? And is this a response to a humanitarian crisis or a public relations one? Now, the section about treatment and shelter expansion. This part sounds noble, expanding shelter capacity and mental health services. But here's the kicker. It encourages states to review civil commitment laws to make them easier to use. So, what exactly counts as severe mental illness under this plan? Is there a checklist somewhere? Or is it just based on whether I talk to myself? Who makes the call that I'm unwell? Someone with a stethoscope or a badge? Do I get a lawyer before I'm hospitalized? Or is that only for people with an address? If the shelter is full, does that mean jail is the next available option? Is refusing treatment a symptom of illness now? And seriously, have we learned nothing from the history of forced institutionalization? Then we arrive at the enforcement section. This is where the order flexes its teeth. DOJ is told to enforce existing laws, like those against encampments, more strictly. Cities that don't comply could lose federal funding. So let me ask, what laws exactly are we talking about here? Anti-camping, public nuisance, jaywalking with a shopping cart? If sleeping on the ground becomes illegal, but I have no bed, where exactly do I go? What does it mean to enforce the law when poverty itself has been made the crime? Is compliance with this order now more important than compassion? Can a city choose to help its homeless, or will it be punished if it doesn't punish us? And if you're threatening cities with financial punishment for not punishing the poor, then who's actually benefiting from this policy? Last comes reporting and deadlines. This section gives a 90-day window for agencies to deliver plans, metrics, and updates on how they'll make this whole thing real. Fast-tracked, quantified, measurable, which makes me wonder, what's the metric for success? Fewer tents or fewer people? Will you count us as helped if we disappear from sight? What happens when shelters are full, but the sweep trucks still roll? Are we just data points to clear, like spam in an inbox? If I stay off the books, do I stay free? And most hauntingly, is invisibility the new American dream? This executive order doesn't come out and say, you don't have rights. That would be too obvious. Instead, it says, you have rights. Until you're a problem, until your presence unsettles a storefront, until your tent is seen by the wrong person, until your breath fogs up a bus stop glass. So my last questions are these. What is a right if it's conditional on comfort? What is freedom if it dissolves the moment you lose a mailing address? What is care if it comes in the form of custody? And, if this is the best plan we've got to deal with the housing crisis, institutionalize the poor and hide the rest, then what does that say about who we've become? Are we solving homelessness or just erasing the evidence? I'll leave you with that, my shadow-skulking sages of the sidewalk. I hope your road is a good one, and if you're homeless, I hope it doesn't suck for you. Peace.